and welcome to part 4. So in this part we focus on the materials. We have this concrete floor with stripes, for example, but we also have concrete plates. And we want to put these materials all together. That's pretty much it for this part, working with materials in the shader editor. So let's get started.
And welcome to part number 4 of the factory course. In the previous part number 3, we created this factory hall. By using some blueprints, we were able to make this factory. And I'm going to close it. In the end, what we did was adding a remesher. So if we enable the wireframe, you can see there's now this grid. What helps us to displace the materials or the textures that we apply on the floor and the wall if we want. So if we keep this old construction or the geometry, you cannot displace it. So if you do not have any plans displacing your factory hall, it's not needed. But for this course, I like to use displacement maps. And that's also my workflow for all architecture. So we give it a go, and we're going to apply it. There you go. One thing, if you have artifacts, and we have to go back, Control Z, if there's some, like, you can just replicate that, 0.899, or I can do that. Sometimes when you do remesh, things are like merged. You have to check your model if there's nothing merged. You have to just tweak the scaling, just use a slider, and you can fix that. But most of the time it will be good, but I have to say it can happen. So apply it. I'm going to disable the wireframe and we're good to go. So I like to start with materials. So we go inside, and right here we have a lamp, and we're in Eevee. So let's take a look. And it looks nice. So we're not using Eevee, but it gives a slightly sort of preview how the lighting is. And we can see the large hall in the background, this door over here, and the smaller ones. And I mean, it's a nice looking space. It feels large. It's exactly what we want to achieve. And by adding the first set of materials, it will start looking much better. We do some lighting. We replace the lamp with a sunlight and doing picking a sky, generated a procedural sky. And later on, we will use an HDRI. All right, enough information. We delete the lamp. We go to camera light, add, and we go to light and sunlight. And I like to rotate it slightly. Again, this is just preview lighting to have an idea how it looks. And we won't use it after we added the windows, otherwise it looks simply dark. So we'll use the material preview to see what we're doing. Anyway, we're also doing the sky texture, and we use pretam. I explained in part 2 why. But yeah, this is just a preview setup. And I like to increase the strength to 10. So like this. So if we go to the camera and we go to render again, we have to go to cycles. It looks dark, and that's fine. So we have to work in a material preview. Cool. So what we'll do is left click on the factory, the model right there, and we go to the material tab. And I like to start with 3 materials. The first one is wall. You can call it factory wall, but I mean, there is one main wall, so I'm calling this wall. The next one, click new, is plates. And another one is concrete floor. And plates. So this shows that it's on the floor. I like to start with adding a texture on the wall. So I also want to remove. So I have go to edit mode. We're selecting this row and we delete the faces, not vertices, only the faces. If you do the vertices, it will break it. So faces. So we have an entrance, and the reason I'm doing this is if I want to go backward, I'm doing shift tilt, and go back, I can go to the other side instead of just bouncing to a wall. And it helps. I also want to change, the focal length is already changed, that's fine. So I want to add, as mentioned, a wall texture. So we go to shading, solid. As soon as you start switching to shading, it will load the textures. It's not optimal. I'm not using these folders, so I'm using this. I'm left click, you see the plus, and it's merging. So, and also not using this grid, so I'm just merging it. So we are in the shader, and I like to add, we want to add a texture, image texture, and we're opening it, and I want my factory wall. Where is my factory? I go to the folder so you can see it. And I want to have Plaster wall 04, diffuse. We're putting this in the base. And we're also loading the roughness and the normal map, displacement, normal map. That one goes here. And we're loading the roughness. It's right here. Non-color because it's a black and white image. And it goes here. And the normal map. Cool. Fine. So we now have one material, the first one, and that will be applied on everything. So in material preview, it's not visible. And the reason why is that if we select everything, that all the vertices are selected, we go to the UV editing, we do not have coordinates. So in part 2, I explained we have to make a UV map. And what I like to use for this complex or the hull is the cube projection. And you can see like it's insane. A lot of vertices. So this is a map, and I like to scale this a little bit. So we go back to the object mode, press 0 and material preview, and now you can see that the texture is applied, but it's way too big. So you can see this was way smaller when I scanned it a year ago, I guess, in the factory. So I like to just make it bigger, even bigger than that, something like this. And we can change this, but for now it's good. So the first material is active. So I want to move on, and I want to go to concrete floor, and we go to the shading. And what we can do is simply copy the setup from the wall, copy. We go to concrete floor and press Ctrl V. And the only thing we need to do is replace these textures. So we go to concrete factory floor stripes, diffuse. And I scanned this one recently. And the great thing about this texture, it has some striping on it. You will see that in a second. Non-color. It's always turning back as soon as you switch the texture. Normal map, non-color, and we're putting it right there. So this should be fine if we put it right there. And I want this material to be applied on the floor. So in edit mode, we just deselect, just clicking somewhere in the space, press B, and we select the floor, like everything. And we click assign on concrete floor. So plates floor is not active yet. So if we go to material preview, you can see what we applied. So it's a concrete floor. I scanned this in a factory, and it has these nice stripings. So there were all shelves standing there. So currently the direction is not good. So I like to go to the top, and so switching to edit mode, and we go to UV editing and click these two arrows. If you do that, you're only selecting these vertices. And we want to rotate this like 90 degrees. So I'm pressing R and Control, and it's rotating. So because I changed tab, the screencast is like disabled. I don't know why. And we go to material preview, and we can see it's now facing the right direction. So It's hard to see where the texture is because it's highlighted, but what I like to do is move this white stripe to the right. So, and make it a little bit smaller. And pressing GX or GY. Yeah, and holding Shift. And I want to have this white line connecting with the end of this wall, because this area to the end will be a different material. So I don't like how it's ending right there. So I'm going to this mode and I have to use my viewport wisely. And I'm pressing GX and I'm going to put this close to the end like this. Okay, pressing 0 on the numpad, and we have this view. So far, so good. So I like to move on to plates floor, and we go to the shading and press Ctrl V because we still have it selected or copied. And we go to we have to select it, concrete plates, albedo. I want to align this a little bit better. So zooming in so you can read what it is. And we have to select the roughness. So a lot of texture work like this. And we want to select the normal map, non-color, right there. Okay, so in the viewport material, the end of this wall and the this wall, right here, I want to apply the other material. So what I like to do is, I think it's right there. We're just making a selection and see what we've selected. So I think this was perfect because I selected. It's hard to see in this view because you can't see what a wall is, but I wanted to select this whole area and it needs to connect with this wall and ending right there. So I just made a random selection and it works. If it doesn't work, you go to the transparent mode, the wireframe, you have to select like one more or holding scroll wheel to delete one. And again, my screen tab is just not working, I guess. It's not good for you. And we're going to assign this on the plates. And in the UV editing, we are selecting the albedo. We're rotating this. We're scaling it like this. That's perfect. And it needs to cover the whole texture like this. This is good. And then we end up with this. So this is like a driving lane for forklifts. And this area on the right, the shelves will be added on this place. That's why you have these stripes, and that's looking good. So at this point, we have 3 materials applied. And I want to go to the next one, and that is roof plates, because currently we have these plaster texture on the roof, and that's not what I want. So I'm adding a new one, roof plates, or use a capital. Just like this. Perfect. So, and we're going to shading, Control V. There we have our textures. They're now floating right there. And where they are, concrete roof plates, albedo, perfect. We're just aligning these. As I mentioned, it's a lot of texture work. What I like to do is all in one part. So in the next part, we can focus on the construction beams. That's real fun work. A lot of modeling, by the way, but it will be fun. So this material is prepared, roof plates. So we're doing, in fact, the same as we did with the floor. So we have to find out what the roof is. So that's it. That's the roof. So we're selecting it like this. And here we go, like so. And here. And You can see this line is also selected, so I like to deselect it. And this vertex here as well. And this roof needs to be selected also. Cool. So double check, it looks like everything is selected. Okay, but we don't want to select the floor, of course. We have to deselect. So you're going to do B and hit scroll wheel and you can deselect it like this. All right. So if you're sure everything is selected, you click assign, go to the camera view, and you can take a look how that looks. So the roof plates needs to be rotated because they are standing on a pillar later on, and this is not how I want that. So we go to the top view, or we go to UV editing, and we rotate it. So hitting Control, so it's 90 degrees. We go to this mode, and I want to make it a little bit bigger. So that needs to be a little bit smaller, and we can keep changing the size if it's not good. But to me, I think this will work. Okay, you can even make it a little bit bigger. It needs to be like in balance with everything you see. So with imbalance, I mean, if you do it like this, these are really big, but if you make them very large, they look very tiny. So something in between, we go back by hitting Control C, is good. That's, you always need to use your eyes when applying it. So at this moment, we have the roof, the floor, the wall. So I like to go to the next one, and I think it's one of the most key, and that's the window part. So I like to start with adding, let's tick, tick, tick. There are two types of windows. The painted window, that's a sort of a white old window, and a glass protection window with sort of iron wire. And I like to start with painted window. Yeah. And we're going to put this on all of these, except these will be protected window, and the other ones will be white window. Anyway, I like to start. We go to shading, add. Oh, we can just drag and drop, or just press Ctrl V, and we go back, painted window, and painted window large. It's not calling diffuse, so I have to change that, but it's that one. It's a kind of a weird texture, but it works like a charm. It's really good for this factory. Non-color, roughness, and a normal map. There we go, non-color, and we're putting it right there. So this texture comes with a mask. And we will add this later so we can show you why we need a mask. But first we need to select all the windows. Okay, so how we do that is exactly the same for all the other ones. First the top ones, the top windows. Then the windows on the side. Here as well. And these have intersections. So what we'll do, we select it like this. And then we have to deselect this. Okay. That's how we select the windows. And we have some on the other end here. Let's take a look. And we have these roofs. Almost forgot. And check if nothing else is selected. We zoom in, we look around, and only these windows are selected. Looks good to me. And we click assign. But this time we need to do some editing. So if we do the material previews, you can see it looks kind of weird. So UV editing, and I have to go to my window. I just call window large. Yeah, that one. Yeah. And what I like to do, and it's a little bit intensive, but you select the UVs and just checking it. It's a little bit slow, of course, we are in the viewport. And we're scaling this, but I want to overlap it a little bit with the border. And this way it blends better with the plaster. So I tried a lot of versions. And for the factory, this is really the way to go. So this will take like a couple of minutes. So just relax and take your time. I've done this over and over again, like 8 times or so. And that's good. Modeling takes time, and texturing as well. So these are like the small ones. You won't see the bottom, so I'm just simply skipping that. So we're rotating that one and try to cover as many windows as possible. And again, there's no, and these needs to cover the bottom as well. That's important. All right. So what we can do is just simple rotate all in one. So that speeds up, and try to already find the right measurement, so that will save us some time. Okay. Cool. And we're almost there. We're almost there. And we have to make this one, this material needs to be kind of transparent. And we're doing this with a black and white mask. And yeah. So the great thing about what I like about a course like this is that I cover like the whole process. I won't skip anything. So you get the whole idea of modeling. And I was used to make like large courses with all kind of scenes, but this time it's just separated areas. And I kind of like this way because I can focus way more on it. Anyway, a lot of talking, material, and now looks this. And by the way, this is how it looks in real life, like this kind of window. We go to shading. Let's say if you go right here, you go to rendering, it looks all black. So at this point, we have to do the masking. So simply duplicate, we go to solid view, a texture, and I want to have this mask, make it non-color. And the only thing you need to do is putting this in the alpha. And we're doing the rendering again. And you can see something is happening, but there is a problem. We need to invert it because now the wrong part is casting light. So what we will do is we go to add color, let add color, invert color, and putting it right there. And now if we hit render, there's much more light casting through the window. It's still very dark in this scene. That's because the main windows do not cast any light. We will do this right now. But I mean, these are working. And you can see the squares, the bottom isn't visible, but it's like the plaster is hiding it. All right, so what's left is one more material. We click plus, new, protected glass. And you maybe wonder, what is protected glass? It's just this typical type of glass with a wire in it, so it can't be broken easily. So what I like to do is I'm selecting all of these. This is the easy part. But I also need to select these. And it's really hard because it's very hard to see where they start or where they end. So what I like to do, and that's nice, we turn cycles into workbench. You go to matcap, you click on this sphere, you make this red. So if we now go to render, it still doesn't work. But if we do the outline, that doesn't work. Shadowing, a little bit of cavity. Cavity is doing the job. So now, and we're in the face selection mode, we can select the top way better. And this, I normally do a lot of work in the workbench. You can do the whole modeling part of the factory in the workbench. But it works in Eevee as well. So sometimes I think, why is there a whole separated engine just for this kind of work? But as soon as I work like in the workbench, I really like it. So it's a bit double. But then I think, yeah, people need to work on it, make it stable. So what's the benefit? For me, it's really this type of work. But yeah, Long story short, it works. It has a function. So there we go. And then there's one more row left. And sometimes it's modeling and texturing and applying textures is this kind of work. There's no sort of easy way of selecting them. It's really, you have to manually select them and apply them. The good part is that it's a tileable texture. So as soon we go back now to, you have to go to solid, otherwise it will load. You go to cycles, and we have to be aware that everything is selected like this. Looks good. And protected glass, and yeah, you can assign, but there's nothing there yet, so let's assign it. And now we go to add texture, or we can Control V. Yeah, but for this texture I don't want to use the principal BSDF. However, what I like to use is shader, a gloss shader, because this is such a nice texture. I scanned the normal map, so I'm going to show you that in a second. So we have to go to protected gloss, and this is it. So let's start with the albedo PNG. You can do JPEG as well. And we want the roughness, not color. Go straight into the roughness and the normal map. Cool. Non-color. We're putting it right there. And I showed this in part 2 as well, that just the gloss doesn't cast the sun streaks. So first we render. You can see, we zoom in, this is the protected glass, it's way too big. So we have it selected. We go to UV, let's just rotate it. Is that wisely? No, it's not wise to do that. We're just scaling it. And material preview, so you can see it. Something like this. It's still way too big, but maybe a bit more. I kind of like to see the effect, but it's real, and the normal map is really working here. So that's nice. So let's go to rendering. Here, and you can see it's a sort of breaking the light, so you can see the factory roof, but it's like blurry. That's nice. But the big thing is that it's not casting light. So we have to go to shading, add, go to shader, mix shader, putting it right there, and add a new shader, add to shader and transparent. Yeah, we've done this before. Transparent, there you go inside of that one. And if you do the rendering right now, you can see we have light streaks. But there are some artifacts going on because you're now using a 50% of the gloss and 50% of the transparent. And I learned something, and it's math, so I can say forget this, just try to copy this, because gloss is not doing what we want. But with this calculation, you can make it work in the best way we can do that. So what we want is light path, like this, a math node, and change this to maximum. And then we want to have the shadow ray and the reflective ray. And this works as a mask to have the best of both. And we're rendering. And the transition is now better. It's a small detail, but a 50% doesn't simply work out. All right, so I like to do a little bit of tuning with the sunlight. Maybe a little bit more like this. Rendering. We already have a value of 10. What we can do is, we have the environment light. We can use a denoiser, make it more cleanish. And something I like is a little bit of increase of the exposure. Let's use base contrast. I don't want to go into this too much because it has to do with color management. But if you increase it a little bit, you can see more. So at this point, we have basic materials. That's a great thing. We have the plates. We have the striped concrete. the windows on the roof and on the rear. So what I like to do in the next part is focusing on the construction beams. We have iron beams and concrete beams, and there are quite a lot of them, and we need them to fill this room with the construction. A factory hall without construction beams is kind of boring. So that will be, it will be pretty tough, but with everything you learned so far, especially in the first two parts, you can do this, because I won't show you anything new what scares you. So you will able to do that. But I mean, you need motivation and concentration to do that. But I will help you, and together we will fix this. I promise. All right, so this is the end of part number 4. Thanks for watching, and I'd like to see you in part number 5. Bye-bye.